Begin recovered audio transcript. Source: Tactical Body Cam, Unit 7 Alpha, Operative Agent K. Vane. Timestamp 214.5. Location Sector 4, Sub-Basement. Agent Vane says, Control, I am at the breach point. The corridor is empty. No sign of the asset. Control replies, Copy, Vane. Thermal is clean. You are clear to proceed. Agent Vane says, Copy, wait. I am getting a reading. No, that is not right. My HUD is clear, but I feel heavy. The air is heavy. Control says, Vane, check your biometrics. Heart rate is spiking 120. Take a breath. Agent Vane says, I cannot. It is like the air is getting thin. I hear... Do you hear that? It sounds like tension, like a wire being pulled. Control says, negative on audio. Vane, you are hyperventilating. Pulse is 140. Back out of the sector. Agent Vane says, I cannot move. It is looking at me. I do not see it, but it is looking right at my chest. Control says, Vane, there is nothing in the room. Retreat immediately. Agent Vane says, Oh God, it is not in the room. It is... There is a sharp intake of breath, followed by a wet, tearing sound like heavy canvas ripping. Control says, Vane, medical. We have a flatline on Alpha 7, instant cessation. Get a team down there. File attachment, after action, forensic report. Incident ID 10002INIT. Subject Agent K. Vane, deceased. Autopsy performed by Dr. A. Morrow. The body of Agent Vane was recovered from the Sector 4 sub-basement approximately 3 minutes after loss of contact. External analysis reveals a catastrophic disruption of the thoracic cavity. However, the nature of the trauma is inconsistent with any known conventional weaponry or predatory fauna currently in containment. The subject's chest was not breached from the exterior. There are no puncture wounds, no lacerations on the outer dermis indicative of a blade or projectile entry, and no bruising consistent with blunt force impact. Instead, the rib cage has been fractured outward. The force vector originated from within the center of the chest cavity, snapping the 3rd, 4th, and 5th ribs at the sternum and pulling them laterally, effectively opening the torso like a hinged container. The heart and lungs are missing. The precision of the removal is anomalous. There are no severed arteries or veins consistent with mechanical cutting. The vessels appear to have been cauterized or sealed at the molecular level at the point of separation. The surrounding tissue shows no signs of heat damage. It is as if the organs simply ceased to exist within the biological system, and the body was forced open to accommodate their exit. Researcher note, Dr. H. Sorrell. We are looking at this the wrong way. The forensic team is looking for a weapon, but the geometry is wrong. If you wanted to remove an object from a box, you open the lid. Vane's chest was not attacked. It was opened. The lack of tool marks suggests that whatever did this did not interact with the skin or bone until the moment of extraction. This implies a non-Euclidean mechanism. The entity, if it is an entity, bypassed the physical barrier of the skin and manifested directly around the organs. The tearing sound recorded on the audio was not the skin ripping, it was the sudden displacement of air and the vacuum created when 3 kilograms of biological matter vanished instantaneously. We are not dealing with a creature that strikes. We are dealing with something that reaches through dimensions. Witness interview transcript. Witness, Security Officer Aristone. Interviewer, Dr. Sorrell. Dr. Sorrell asked, Officer, you were the first on the scene. Describe exactly what you saw when you turned the corner. Officer Aristone replied, I did not see a killer, Doc. I saw Vane standing there. He was clutching his chest, gasping like he was having a heart attack. I started to run toward him to help. Dr. Sorrell asked, Did you see any other entities, shadows, distortion? Officer Aristone replied, No, nothing. The hallway was empty. But then it happened. Vane threw his head back. His arms, they were pinned back, not by a person. It was like the air itself turned into cuffs. He was pinned against nothing. Dr. Sorrell asked, And then? Officer Aristone replied, Then he unzipped. That is the only word for it. A vertical line appeared on his shirt, and then his chest popped. It was wet and red. I saw his ribs snap out like wings opening. For a split second, I swear I saw his heart. It was beating so fast it was a blur. And then it was just gone. No blood spray, no splatter, just gone. The body dropped, and the hallway was dead silent. Initial classification memo. From Site Command to Containment Division. Based on the Aristone testimony and the lack of physical evidence, the working theory is that we are dealing with a Class 3 spectral entity, or a localized telekinetic anomaly. The phenomena appears centered on the location of Sector 4. Current hypothesis suggests the entity is territorial. Agent Vane entered its area of influence, and the entity reacted with lethal force. Containment teams are outfitting with spectral countermeasures and EMF shielding. We are treating this as a haunting scenario until further data contradicts this assessment. However, one variable remains unaddressed in this theory: the timestamp of the heart rate spike. Vane was panicking before the attack. The medical telemetry shows his heart rate hit 145 beats per minute, exactly 2 seconds before the trauma occurred. We need to determine if the panic was a reaction to the entity or if the panic was the beacon that brought it there. SCP database entry, core file, item number SCP-10002, object class Keter, current status active. Description: SCP-10002 is a transdimensional predatory entity that does not occupy conventional three-dimensional space during its dormant state. It possesses no permanent physical form, no detectable resting metabolic rate, and no localized position within our reality. It cannot be tracked, trapped, or observed until the precise moment of a strike event. The entity's manifestation is strictly conditional. It is attracted to and enabled by a specific biological frequency called the resonance bridge. This phenomenon occurs when a human subject experiences acute autonomic arousal, specifically a cardiac rhythm exceeding 140 beats per minute, combined with the rapid, shallow diaphragm oscillation typical of hyperventilation or panic. When these physiological conditions are met, the vibration of the thoracic cavity creates a sympathetic resonance with the entity's native dimension. To the entity, a calm human is invisible, part of the static background of reality. A panicked human becomes a beacon. The vibration allows the entity to perceive the subject's internal organs as distinct, accessible objects. It does not see skin or bone. It sees only the vibrating meat of the heart and lungs, exposed and waiting to be claimed. Archive retrieval. Containment procedures version 1. Date redacted. Status obsolete. Do not use. Initial containment protocols were established under the assumption that the entity was a localized, invisible aggressor that traveled through physical space. Primary containment. The anomaly is to be housed within a reinforced containment cell at Site 99. Lined with telekill alloy and acoustic dampening foam. The silent room protocol is in effect. No personnel are to enter the containment radius without level 4 ballistic armor and neck guards. Rationale. Although the entity is invisible, forensic data from the Vane incident suggests it exerts physical force capable of fracturing bone. Therefore, standard heavy containment measures applied. Security teams were instructed to utilize thermal imaging to attempt to locate a heat signature. If a manifestation event begins, personnel were instructed to form a defensive perimeter and fire suppression rounds into the empty space surrounding the victim in an attempt to disrupt the entity's approach. Technical analysis. Photographic evidence. Subject high-speed capture. Incident 10002-04. Analyst Dr. A. Morrow. Reference the attached imagery labeled Figure 2A. These images were captured by a high-speed camera capable of recording at 10,000 frames per second during a test event. In standard video playback, the attack appears instantaneous. When slowed, the mechanism of the strike becomes visible. Frame 402 shows the air surrounding the subject's chest beginning to distort, similar to heat haze. By frame 405, this distortion solidified into 4 distinct translucent appendages. These appendages resemble elongated hooks or talons, composed of a material that absorbs 99.9% of visible light, appearing as void black obsidian. Crucially, these hooks do not arrive from a direction. They do not shoot out from the wall or drop from the ceiling. They manifest in situ, appearing fully formed, mere inches from the subject's torso. In frame 408, The hooks had bypassed the subject's clothing and tactical vest without damaging them. They appeared to phase through inorganic matter entirely. The tips of the hooks were positioned inside the rib cage, hooked behind the sternum. This confirms that physical armor is useless. The entity did not break through defenses. It simply manifested on the other side of them. Researcher memo: The Paradox of Existence. From Dr. H. Sorrell to Site Director. We are facing a fundamental paradox in containment strategy. We are trying to build a cage for a creature that does not exist until someone is afraid of it. SCP-10002 is not a monster that hunts in the dark. It is a predator of consequence. If you are in the containment chamber and you are calm, you are alone in an empty room. There is literally nothing there to contain. But if you believe there is a monster in the room and that belief drives your heart rate above the threshold, you effectively summon the monster. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy weaponized into a predator. The danger is not the location. The danger is the biological reaction of the observer. We are not containing a spatial anomaly, Director. We are containing the physiological concept of terror itself. And our current procedures, including heavy armor, guns, and intimidating silence, only make the staff more likely to reach that fatal threshold. We are designing a slaughterhouse and calling it a bunker. Experiment log 10002 Alpha. Date redacted. Subjects: D-Class personnel, D9092 and D9093. Supervising researcher Dr. H. Sorrell. Purpose: to isolate the specific physiological trigger for SCP-10002 manifestation. Previous data suggests a correlation between heart rate and attack frequency, but the distinction between physical exertion and psychological distress remains unverified. Test A: Physical exertion. Subject D9092 is placed in the primary testing chamber. Subject is instructed to run on a standard treadmill at high intensity. No anomalous stimuli are introduced. Dr. Sorrell reports heart rate is at 130, 145, 160 beats per minute. Subject is exerting maximum effort. Diaphragm oscillation is consistent with heavy exercise, not panic. Observation: subject D9092 maintains a heart rate above the 140 beats per minute threshold for 6 minutes. No manifestation occurs. The environment remains stable. Conclusion A: elevated heart rate alone is insufficient to create the resonance bridge. The anomaly distinguishes between metabolic demand and autonomic flight or fight response. Test B: chemically induced panic. Subject D9093 is restrained in a chair. Subject is at rest. At T-minus 10 seconds, subject is administered 5 cubic centimeters of compound 19 intravenously. Dr. Sorrell reports injection complete. Watch the monitors. Heart rate spiking 110, 135, 150 beats per minute. Subject is hyperventilating. Pupil dilation maximum. Subject D9093 says, something is wrong. I can't. Why is the air moving? Get it off me. Dr. Sorrell reports manifestation detected. Time mark 45 seconds. Observation at 45 seconds post-injection. D9093's thoracic cavity is subjected to the unzipping event. The subject's restraints remain intact, but the torso is violently opened. Vital signs cease immediately. Conclusion B: the trigger is psychosomatic resonance. The specific vibration of the chest cavity during acute terror is the only variable that matters. Field test report. Barrier integrity. Test ID 10002 armor. Subject D9105. Equipment Mark IV Fortress explosive. Ordnance disposal suit. Subject D9105 was outfitted with a Mark IV explosive ordnance disposal suit, reinforced with woven tungsten plating and an internal ceramic trauma plate. This armor is rated to withstand point-blank detonation of high-yield explosives. The subject was placed in the chamber and exposed to a projected visual hazard, a simulated containment breach of SCP redacted, to induce panic. Telemetry indicates D9105 reached the panic threshold at 14:02:10. At 14:02:12, the internal biometric sensors detected a catastrophic drop in blood pressure. The armor was not breached from the outside. The tungsten plating showed no scratches, dents, or deformation. Post-test recovery required the armor to be dismantled. Upon opening the chest plate, the interior was coated in biological residue. D9105's lungs and heart were absent. The ribcage had been snapped outward, pressing against the inside of the trauma plate. Physical shielding is irrelevant. SCP-10002 does not travel through space to reach the target. It manifests at the point of resonance. If the subject is inside a tank, the entity manifests inside the tank. There is no safe distance and no safe material. Medical Officer Log. Officer Dr. A. Morrow. Topic: Intervention Feasibility. We have analyzed the frame-by-frame data of the D9105 extraction. The time elapsed between the appearance of the obsidian hooks and the total removal of the organs is approximately 0.8 seconds. Human reaction time to a visual stimulus is roughly 0.25 seconds. A tactical team member would need to perceive the attack, process the threat, aim, and fire in less than half a second to even attempt an interruption. Even if we had a weapon that could harm it, which we do not. The physics of the extraction are instantaneous. The hooks do not pull slowly, they apply an estimated 4,000 newtons of force in a single frame of movement. By the time the subject realizes they are being attacked, they are already dead. The scream they try to make is just the sound of air rushing into the vacuum where their lungs used to be. Medical intervention is impossible. The only survival strategy is preemption. Researcher Memo: The Cascade Effect. From Dr. H. Sorrell to O5 Command. Clearance Level 4. We need to reevaluate our entire site safety protocol immediately. We have confirmed that SCP-10002 targets. Panic. Consider the implications of this for a Site-99. If we have a containment breach of a Keter-class entity, for example a massive reptilian aggressor or a reality bender, our standard procedure is to sound the alarm. Sirens wail, emergency lights flash, personnel are ordered to evacuate. These procedures are designed to save lives, but in the context of SCP-10002, they are a death sentence. The moment the siren goes off, hundreds of staff members will experience a heart rate spike. They will panic. We are looking at a scenario where a breach of any SCP triggers a mass feeding event for SCP-10002. The initial breach might kill 10 people, but the resulting panic could allow SCP-10002 to harvest hundreds of personnel in the corridors before they even reach the exits. We are effectively sitting on a powder keg where the spark is our own fear response. Standard containment doctrine is now a liability. We must suppress the human reaction to danger, or we will lose the entire site. Updated Containment Procedures Version 2. Effective date redacted. Authorization O5 Command. Status mandatory for all Site-99 personnel. Following the failure of physical containment barriers, Protocol Flatline has been enacted. The objective of containment is no longer the isolation of SCP-10002. The objective is the suppression of the biological trigger required for its manifestation. All personnel assigned to Site-99, regardless of clearance level, are required to wear the Mark II biometric suppression collar at all times while within the facility. This device monitors heart rate, blood pressure, and galvanic skin response in real time. The device is autonomous. If the wearer's heart rate exceeds 135 beats per minute for more than 3 seconds, the collar automatically deploys a spring-loaded injector directly into the wearer's jugular vein. It administers a high-concentration dose of propofol and carfentanil. This rapid-onset beta-blocker protocol is designed to induce immediate unconsciousness and respiratory depression, forcibly dropping the heart rate below the danger threshold before the resonance bridge can form. Personnel are advised that the collar cannot distinguish between panic caused by SCP-10002, panic caused by a separate containment breach, or panic caused by mundane environmental hazards. The device prioritizes the prevention of a strike event over the immediate safety of the individual wearer. Incident Report 10002 Collateral. Date redacted. Location: Sector 3 Chemical Storage. Subject Researcher T. Larson. Deceased. At 9:45, a chemical spill occurred in Lab 3B, triggering the automated fire suppression system. The sudden activation of the halon gas vents caused a loud percussive noise. Researcher Larson, who was handling volatile compounds at the time, was startled. Biometric logs indicate Larson's heart rate spiked to 142 beats per minute due to the sudden noise and the visual of the gas deployment. The Mark II collar correctly identified the breach of threshold and deployed the sedative payload. Larson was rendered unconscious within 4 seconds. He collapsed on the laboratory floor. Because the room was filling with halon gas which displaces oxygen, active evacuation was required. Larson, unable to move or breathe effectively due to the heavy sedation, succumbed to asphyxiation. Security footage shows Larson slumped against the doorframe. He did not die from the chemical spill or the fire system. He died because the containment protocol worked exactly as intended. He was saved from SCP-10002, only to die of a preventable industrial accident. The ruling from command is that this is an acceptable trade-off. Had Larson remained conscious and panicked, a strike event could have occurred, endangering the entire sector. Ethics Committee Memo. Project Quiet Mind. From Dr. J. Crowley, Ethics Liaison, to Site Director. Subject: Surgical alternatives to sedation. The Rob collars are a crude solution. They are reactive, relying on a chemical intervention after the physiological cascade has already begun. We are risking a window of failure where the sedative acts too slowly to prevent the resonance. Furthermore, the loss of personnel like researcher Larson highlights the inefficiency of rendering staff unconscious during emergencies. We are proposing a proactive biological alteration for D-Class and permanent research staff assigned to SCP-10002. We propose a bilateral amygdalotomy, the surgical lesioning of the amygdala to physically remove the brain's capacity to process fear. Alternatively, severing the vagus nerve would prevent heart rate acceleration entirely, regardless of psychological state. We are not suggesting we make them brave. We are suggesting we make them biologically incapable of the specific vibration that attracts the predator. We are not containing a creature. We are trying to contain the human instinct to survive. As long as we can feel terror, the hook is already in our chests. We just have not started shaking enough for it to catch yet. Analytical Review. Procedural Drift. Author Senior Archivist Renner. Reviewing the evolution of these protocols reveals a disturbing shift in Foundation doctrine. In version 1, we attempted to wall off the anomaly. In version 2, we are walling off our own biology. This is procedural drift in its most extreme form. We have tacitly admitted that we cannot control the environment or the entity. Instead, we are modifying the observer to become invisible to the threat. The Foundation is effectively turning Site-99 into a tomb of the living, a place where human reaction is the enemy, and a flat affect is the only survival trait. We are not securing the anomaly. We are simply ensuring that when we die quietly. Psychological Evaluation Transcript. Subject Senior Researcher K. Vance. Evaluator Dr. I. Aris, Site Psychiatry. Date November 4th, 2020. Dr. Aris. Researcher Vance, I am looking at your biometrics from the containment breach last Tuesday. A hydraulic failure in Sector 2 caused a ceiling collapse. 2 personnel were crushed less than 3 meters from your station. Vance. That is correct. Dr. Aris. Your heart rate data is anomalous. During the event, your pulse never exceeded 78 beats per minute. A massive structural failure occurred, colleagues were killed, and your physiological response was effectively non-existent. Can you explain that? Vance. I calculated the trajectory of the debris. I determined I was outside the impact zone. There was no utility in a sympathetic nervous response. Dr. Aris. It is not about utility, Vance. It is about instinct. The startle reflex is hardwired. To suppress it completely implies a severe degree of dissociation. Vance. We are not dissociated, Doctor. We are conditioned. I did not look at the debris. I did not look at the bodies. I looked at the monitor on my wrist. I watched the number. 72, 75, 76. That number is the only thing that matters. If I grieve, I die. If I scream, I die. The collar is tighter than the rubble. You ask why I did not react to the death of my colleagues, because if I reacted, the thing in the walls would have taken me before the dust even settled. We do not have the luxury of being human anymore. Training Protocol Summary. Protocol 99 Delta. Subject Amygdala Desensitization Program. Status mandatory for new assignments. To ensure the survivability of staff assigned to SCP-10002, all incoming personnel must undergo Protocol 99 Delta. This is an intensive 2-week conditioning regimen designed to exhaust the subject's capacity for shock. Subjects are strapped into immersion chairs and exposed to high-fidelity simulations of extreme violence, sudden loud noises, and jump scare stimuli. During these sessions, the subject is connected to a biofeedback shock collar. If their heart rate spikes above 120 beats per minute in response to the stimuli, they receive a painful electrical jolt. The objective is Pavlovian conditioning. We are training the brain to associate fear not with safety or flight, but with immediate physical punishment. Over time, the subject learns to instinctively suppress the adrenal surge. They learn to view a monster lunging at them with the same clinical detachment as a math problem. The washout rate for this program is 40%. Those who cannot break their fear response are transferred to low-security logistics sites. Those who pass are considered Site 99 ready. They are calm, efficient, and emotionally hollow. They are the only ones who can walk the corridors without vanishing. Recovered personal journal. Owner, junior researcher T. Oakley. Recovery location, quarters 4A. I don't think the collar is working, or maybe it's working too well. I check my pulse every 5 minutes. It's become a tick. I wake up in the middle of the night and the first thing I do is feel for my carotid artery. Is it fast? Is it too fast? The problem is the feedback loop. I get anxious about being anxious. I feel my heart skip a beat and that scares me, which makes it beat faster, which scares me more. I have to sit on the edge of my bed and do breathing exercises for an hour just to get the courage to walk to the cafeteria. Yesterday, I dropped a coffee mug. It shattered. The noise was loud. I froze. I didn't move for 10 minutes. I just stood there waiting for the hooks, waiting for the air to unzip. I wasn't scared of the noise. I was scared that my body would react to the noise. I feel like I'm holding a grenade with the pin pulled and the grenade is my own heart. I'm not living. I'm just managing the countdown. Site Director's Log. Date, January 20th, 2020. Topic, the Quiet Zone Hazard. We have created a secondary hazard at Site 99. The conditioning is effective, yes. SCP-10002 manifestations have dropped by 80% since the introduction of the collars and the desensitization training. But the atmosphere here is wrong. Last week we had a small electrical fire in the server room. The alarm was silent. We disabled the sirens to prevent panic spikes, so it was just a strobe light. The staff evacuated, but they didn't run. They walked. Perfectly rhythmic, slow steps. Nobody shouted. Nobody urged anyone to hurry. They watched the fire spread with blank expressions because to get excited about the fire is to invite the predator. We have suppressed the survival instinct so thoroughly that our staff is now at risk of dying from mundane, preventable causes simply because they refuse to acknowledge urgency. We have created a site full of sleepwalkers. They are safe from the monster, but they are barely alive. O5 Council. Note, from 058 to Archival Division Subject SCP-10002 Status Summary. The file for SCP-10002 represents a critical failure in the philosophy of containment. We define containment as the isolation of an anomaly from humanity. In this instance, we have been forced to isolate humanity from itself. SCP-10002 is not currently contained. It is merely dormant. It exists in the potential energy of every frightened breath. We have built walls, not of concrete, but of chemicals and psychological trauma. We maintain this fragile stasis by turning our researchers into biological machines, stripped of the very instincts that allowed our species to survive the dark for millennia. But this solution is temporary. One day the sedatives will run out, or the conditioning will break, or a catastrophe will occur that is too terrifying to ignore. And in that moment of collective panic, the air will unzip and we will be reminded that we cannot legislate away our own biology. As long as we fear death, the entity has a key to the door. RISA. File closure, file status, sealed. Authorization Level 5, archive date, January 5th, 2026. This concludes the compiled archive for SCP-10002. Further access to medical logs and casualty reports is restricted to personnel with active amygdala desensitization certification. Remember, control your breathing. Check your monitor. Do not react. End of archive.